Do you eat canned tuna often? It's a pantry staple for many of us. Affordable, packed with protein, and easy to mix into a quick salad or sandwich. But here's something most people don't realize. That small, convenient can could be quietly adding something harmful to your body. Of mercury, and for those of us over 50. The risks are even greater. Our bodies don't detoxify like they used to. The liver slows down, our circulation becomes a bit less efficient. That means the mercury from tuna, especially if we eat it often, doesn't just pass through. It builds up over time. It can affect your memory, slow down your reflexes, and strain your heart. Now we're not here to scare you off tuna completely. Far from it, tuna can still be part of a smart, balanced diet, but it only works for you, not against you when you know how to choose the right kind. Eat the right amount and avoid the common mistakes that most people don't even realize they're making. In this video, we'll uncover the truth behind canned tuna and mercury. We'll walk through the 4 biggest mistakes people over 50 often make when buying or eating tuna, and show you how to enjoy this popular food without risking your brain or your heart health. If you're looking for simple science-backed tips to stay sharp, strong, and healthy as you age, be sure to subscribe. Let's get started. Mistake 1: eating tuna too often without realizing the risk. Canned tuna is one of the easiest proteins to add to a meal. It's shelf-stable, affordable, and full of omega-3s that support brain and heart health. So it's no surprise that many people eat it multiple times a week, sometimes without even thinking twice. But here's the issue: mercury doesn't leave the body easily. Unlike certain vitamins or even other toxins, mercury accumulates over time, especially in people over 50. When the body's natural detox systems start to slow down, that means the more often you eat tuna, especially certain types, the more mercury builds up in your system. And what does that mean for your health? Research has linked long-term mercury exposure to memory problems, slower thinking, numbness in the hands and feet, and even higher risk of heart disease for older adults. That's a concern worth paying attention to, especially if you're already managing things like high blood pressure, blood sugar, or cognitive health. So how much tuna is too much? According to the U.S. dietary guidelines, most adults should aim for about 8 ounces of seafood per week, which is roughly 2 small cans. But here's where it gets tricky. That guideline assumes you're eating low mercury fish. If you're eating tuna with higher mercury levels, even 1 can might be too much. That's why the type of tuna matters just as much as the amount. And we'll cover that in a moment. But for now, here's a simple takeaway. If you've been eating canned tuna more than twice a week, it's time to pause and reassess and rotate it with other low mercury fish, like sardines, salmon, or trout. They offer just as much or more omega-3s, and they're often better for your long-term health. Coming up next, not all tuna is created equal. Let's take a closer look at the difference between skipjack, albacore, and yellowfin, and why choosing the wrong one could quietly raise your mercury exposure. Ready to continue? Mistake 2: not knowing the difference between tuna types. Here's a surprising fact: not all canned tuna comes from the same fish, and depending on which type ends up in your can, the amount of mercury you're getting can vary dramatically. Most people glance at the label and see tuna or light tuna and assume it's all pretty much the same. But in reality, there are 3 main species commonly used in canned tuna, and knowing which one you're eating could make all the difference, especially if you're trying to protect your brain, your heart, or your long-term memory. Let's start with the safest option. Skipjack tuna. This species is small, matures quickly, and only lives for about 2 to 3 years. That short lifespan means it doesn't have much time to accumulate mercury from the ocean. Most cans simply labeled tuna usually contain skipjack. It averages around 0 parts per million ppm of mercury, making it the best choice for regular consumption, especially for people over 50. Next up is yellowfin tuna. It's larger, lives longer, up to 10 years, and feeds on more contaminated prey. Because of that, it contains about 35 ppm of mercury, nearly triple the amount found in skipjack. While it's still considered safe in moderation, It's not the kind of tuna you want to eat several times a week. And then there's albacore tuna, also known as white tuna on many cans. Albacore is the biggest of the three and lives the longest, which means it builds up the most mercury, up to 0.50 ppm. That's high enough that nutrition experts recommend significantly limiting its consumption, especially for children, pregnant women, and older adults concerned about brain or cardiovascular health. Unfortunately, most food packaging doesn't explain any of this. Unless you know what to look for, it's easy to pick up a can of white tuna, thinking it's a healthier choice when, in fact, it's often the highest in mercury. So here's your action step. Look for cans labeled just tuna or skipjack. If you want the lowest mercury, be cautious with anything labeled albacore or white tuna. Those are best enjoyed only occasionally. Up next, we'll look at how to spot the difference before you buy. Because sometimes it's not as simple as reading the front label. Let's talk about how to read the packaging carefully, so you don't get fooled. Ready to go on mistake 3. Not reading the label carefully before you buy. Let's be honest. Most of us don't spend a lot of time reading the fine print on a can. You're in the store trying to make a quick decision, and the label says light tuna or premium white. Sounds healthy, right? But here's the catch: those labels can be misleading, and they often hide what kind of tuna is actually inside. And as we just covered, different tuna species come with very different levels of mercury. For example, a can labeled light tuna might contain skipjack, which is the safest, but in some cases it could also include yellowfin, which is much higher in mercury. A can labeled white tuna almost always means albacore, the highest mercury tuna commonly sold. If you're not checking the ingredient list, you might be getting more mercury than you think. And here's something most people don't realize: the species of tuna isn't always listed clearly on the front. Sometimes it's tucked away in the ingredients list, in small print, or not listed at all. That's why it's worth taking a few extra seconds to flip the can over and look. Some brands are more transparent than others. The best ones will clearly state skipjack or yellowfin on the label or ingredient list. Others are vague and just say tuna. If it's not clear, a quick visit to the brand's website can usually tell you what species they use. Many brands publish this information online now because more shoppers are starting to ask. The bottom line: if the label isn't clear, don't assume. Make it a habit to double-check before you buy, especially if canned tuna is something you eat regularly. That one small step can help you avoid long-term health risks, and it becomes second nature once you know what to look for. And here's one more tip: don't let tuna be your only fish. Even with lower mercury varieties, it's smart to rotate in other omega-3 rich, low-mercury fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, or trout. These options are affordable, flavorful, and often better for aging brains and hearts. Coming up next, a step that many people overlook completely, but it could reduce your mercury intake even more and improve the taste of your tuna. Let's talk about how you're draining that can. Shall we continue? Mistakes not draining can tuna properly. It might sound trivial, but the way you drain your tuna could actually affect how much mercury ends up on your plate and how enjoyable your meal turns out to be. Let's start with texture. If you've ever mixed tuna into a salad or sandwich and ended up with something soggy or watery, poor draining is likely the culprit. But beyond just taste and appearance, how you drain the can can also influence how much mercury you're eating, especially if the tuna is packed in oil. Here's why. Mercury and other heavy metals are lipophilic, meaning they're attracted to fat. When tuna is packed in oil, some of the mercury actually binds to that oil over time. That's good news, because when you drain the oil thoroughly, you may be tossing out a portion of the mercury along with it. Now compare that to tuna packed in water. Water doesn't bind to mercury the way fat does, so most of the mercury stays in the fish. That means even if you drain it well, you're still consuming nearly all the mercury the fish has absorbed. So which one's better, oil or water? It depends on your priorities. Tuna in oil, when drained thoroughly, may expose you to less mercury. It also tends to be richer in omega-3 fats and vitamin D, nutrients, especially important for older adults looking to protect their brain. bones, and immune function. The trade-off: more calories. But in many cases, those calories come with real nutritional benefits. On the other hand, tuna in water is leaner and lighter, making it a favorite for people watching their weight. But again, if mercury is your main concern, this version may actually leave you with more of it. So what's the best way to drain tuna properly? For either type, of fine mesh strainer works great. You can also press down on the tuna using the can's lid, gently but firmly, to squeeze out as much liquid as possible. The goal is to remove the excess liquid while keeping the nutrients and texture intact. It's a small step, but it can have a noticeable impact on both taste and safety, especially if you eat tuna regularly. And now that we've covered all 4 major mistakes, let's wrap things up with a quick recap and a few bonus tips to keep your meals safe, simple, and full of smart nutrition. Ready? Let's bring it all together. Tuna can absolutely be part of a healthy, balanced diet, especially if you're looking for easy, high-quality protein, but only if you're making smart choices. And that starts with awareness. First, watch how often you eat it. Even healthy foods can work against you if you overdo them. 2 servings of tuna a week is a good general target, but only if you're sticking with low mercury varieties. If you've been eating tuna several times a week without thinking about it, it's time to make a change. Second, know your tuna types. Skipjack is your safest bet, low in mercury and often just labeled tuna on the can. Yellowfin is higher and albacore is the highest. The difference isn't small. It's 2 to 4 times more mercury per serving. If you are concerned about memory, balance, or heart health, that matters. Third, read the label. Don't trust the front of the can alone. Flip it over, look for the species. If it's not there, take a minute to check the brand online. It's a tiny investment of time that pays off in long-term protection, especially for older adults. Fourth, drain it right, especially if it's packed in oil. Draining thoroughly may help reduce mercury exposure. Plus, your recipes will taste better. No more runny mayo or soggy sandwiches. And finally, mix it up. Tuna isn't the only fish with omega-3s. Add in salmon, sardines, trout, or mackerel during the week. These options are naturally lower in mercury and come with their own set of nutrients, perfect for supporting heart and brain health as we age. Here's the good news: you don't need to give up tuna. You just need to be smart about it. A little label reading, some portion control, and a few thoughtful food swaps, and you can keep this pantry favorite on your menu without putting your health at risk. If today's video gave you a clearer picture of how to eat smarter, after 50, go ahead and subscribe. We've got more practical tips coming your way, from lowering blood pressure naturally to the best foods for sharper memory and stronger bones. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.